Welcome to Adventures in Life. I'm your host, Earl Beecher. We did a show with Elena Macias and Hope Olmos where we were into such interesting things. I've asked them to please do a second show, and they have graciously agreed to do so. So on my immediate left here, Hope Olmos is our guest, and she is the citizenship specialist at Rio Hondo College. And next to her is Elena Macias, who is the Assistant Vice President of Sponsorship Programs at California State University, Long Beach. And Hope, I'm going to ask you to begin the discussion here. We were talking about the rights of people, legal, illegal aliens coming in to the country, and some of the problems that are facing people in today's society, and some ways the programs that you two in particular have been associated with that help people to find answers and to know what to do. And I'd like to start off by a hypothetical case. I have heard that sometimes young ladies come into the United States to have their child. They come in illegally, but the baby's born here, so it's a citizen, and therefore the mother feels that she can remain in this country to stay with her citizenship child. And you told me that isn't exactly the way it is. So could you explain how it is for us?
Well, years ago that was the case, but recent changes in the regulations, now the child is not a citizen, and they would have to
in other words, they don't have the right to stay in the United States just because the child was born here.
No.
But the child isn't a citizen?
No, my understanding it's not.
Well, what kind of rights does the child have? It was born here.
Well, the child can be classified as undocumented or illegal until they become an adult. A child is vulnerable as long as it is a minor.
It's vulnerable, and it's not considered a full citizen, but once it achieves its majority, then it is a citizen and does not have to go through the steps of naturalization that someone born elsewhere would go through.
Correct.
They can claim their birthright. I'm glad you made that clear, because I wasn't clear on that before. And
well, these are new changes. I would say in the last 2 years or so they've been modifying all of these laws and requirements.
So, all right. Now, you were talking about the programs that you have and the fact that they can be replicated in other locations. What is being offered to teach people the ESL classes and to pass the INS exams and all the things that are necessary. And even by satellite. And you were going to talk about some of the tapes that you have, some of the tools, so that anybody wishing to establish such a program maybe could be in touch with you and learn how to go about it. Where do we start?
Do you want?
Sure. Our program has received some state funds, and we're using those funds to develop 13 video series, 13 videos, which we will use to broadcast citizenship classes. They are at a level of English that is commonly known to be the level at which the INS will test people. And these videos are...
Would I say that's 8th grade English?
Approximately, yes. Four-fifths.
Reader's Digest level?
Yes.
Something like that?
Something like that. They're very interesting tapes, and we are very interested in making them available to other agencies, to public libraries. So we would encourage people to call Hope and inquire. And as soon as the tapes are available, then we're going to make them available to anybody who requests them at cost.
Now, you said these are 13 tapes?
Yes.
Half hour, hour?
Half-hour tapes.
Half-hour tapes.
Our hope is that cable companies, cable access stations, public broadcasting stations will pick up our videos and make them available, and that's why we framed them in that time sequence. But they can be used alongside regular distance learning, regular instruction. They're tapes that can be borrowed from the library, taken home, and people can study from them. So we've tried to make them so that they will be available to anyone who's interested in either broadcasting it to the community or community-based organization, or borrowing it from the library or buying it for their own personal home library.
Now, does a person have to learn to speak English, read English, write English at that level? All three are one of the above? Like the exam's a written exam. Mm-hmm. And it's multiple choice, so they just have to mark the correct answer, which infers to me reading rather than conversing.
Well, they need to converse as well, because there's two parts to the INS exam. One is the written test, in which, as you said, they check off. But the other one is an oral interview with an INS agent. And so then they need to be able to speak, and they need to be able to demonstrate a certain proficiency in writing.
Yes, there is a sentence that they need to write. So they would have to, also in their ESL classes, learn how to write simple sentences.
Mm-hmm. So there is proficiency in writing, reading, and speaking.
Speaking.
Mm-hmm. I see. Very good. What other aspects of this, with the tapes and the televising, the distance learning aspects? I want to try and cover that, and then get into, you used a magic expression on the first show. You said the 605, and I want to get into that. But let's finish with the distance learning aspects of it. Mm-hmm. You usually have an assistant instructor in the classroom.
That's correct.
With each group, but maybe one instructor on video, plus the video tapes themselves, which explain the ESL aspects. Is that correct?
No, the distance learning is a live interactive component. It's where the instructor is going into the classroom. The students are able to converse by way of phone with the instructor, and they can ask him questions and get their answers right on the air. Now,
is the instructor proficient in the other languages, so that when the student's on the phone asking a question and they can't phrase it in English very well, or could someone like me who's good at English, period, and the person asking the question's got to have English enough to ask me? How does that work?
Well, our experience has been that the students have been capable of asking the questions, and they have a teacher aide in the classroom. So part of the exercise is also working in groups. So many times the groups themselves develop the questions to ask of the instructor.
And maybe have the aide forward the question.
Well, it's the students who forward the question because they're the ones that are going to be taking the test. They need to demonstrate proficiency, so they need to work through the class to develop that proficiency. But you asked about the video and where does it fit.
Yes.
We have different levels of classes of English as a second language, and we have different levels of classes of English as a second language paired with citizenship. And then we have another level which is just citizenship classes. And it's just the citizenship classes that we're televising at this point through distance learning. The videotape comes in as another way to teach citizenship, because not all the classes need to be interactive. Not everybody learns in the same way, and there are some people who can learn very well on their own. They just need the material. They've got the curriculum on tape. There's an 800 number that they can always call should they have a question, so they're not alone. And then the other part of it is that alongside the citizenship instruction, what we have developed is a component that many times is probably just as important to people, and that is a current situation component where we bring in guest speakers and they talk about recent changes or modifications that may have taken place in procedures or in policy as far as their eligibility for services or their eligibility for citizenship. And people then are able to call. They may talk to somebody from the Social Security Administration. They may call and talk to somebody from the Immigration and Naturalization Service, the Welfare Department. Whatever service that is of concern to people, we try to put on the show so that
So
people,
they're in the class and getting their questions answered.
exactly, and they're getting it straight from the agency heads.
That's wonderful. They tell us it's time to pause for a public service announcement, so stay with us. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about welfare. We're going to talk about the 605. There's a lot of good things coming up. We'll be right back.
Look at the little glasses.
Welcome back. Our guests are Hope Olmos and Elena Macias. And Hope, there's a thing called the 605 Citizenship Corridor Project. What is it?
Well, approximately 4 years ago, Assemblywoman Grace Napolitano and Nellie Paredes Walsborn and our Vice President of Rio Hondo College, Sharon Caballero, they met and decided to start the project by asking many of the people in government and in education and cable companies and or businesses, CBOs, community-based organizations, to come together and try to get the distance learning project started. And the name comes 605 because of the freeway or the corridor, which we named it, because Long Beach Community College, Cerritos College, Rio Hondo College were all
Right along the freeway.
Right along the freeway, yes, the San Gabriel Valley.
Sort of the San Gabriel Valley and
Right.
the 605 freeway. Okay.
Yes, and also involved was Mount Sac at the time, and East Los Angeles, and Pasadena City College. So there were several colleges, and we were all coming down that corridor, so that's where we decided to call it the 605 Citizenship Project.
Now, what exactly was the purpose of the project? What are they accomplishing?
We started the distance learning project, which we've been discussing through Cal State Fullerton. Mm-hmm. We were able to broadcast the instruction into 3 of the community colleges, and there we had the classroom sites where the instructional aides would help the students by way of interactive classes with the instructor that was at Cal State Fullerton.
I know that the San Gabriel Valley itself has, 31 cities in it, 31 chambers of commerce. Are they helping you in participating in this in some way?
Not at the present. They were at the initial meeting, and now we're planning to extend. That's why we're here, hoping that they would come on board and help.
You would encourage them to call you.
Right, I would.
Okay, good. The door's open,
Right.
everybody. The door's open. Come in. Elena, there have been some changes in the welfare law. Would you tell us, you said some things that I thought were rather touching. Please share those with us.
Yes. Well, welfare reform, it has very significant impact on people who are receiving SSI benefits, food stamps, and other types of social services. And as of September of '97, the law reads that folks will be cut off of services if they are permanent legal residents. If they are not U.S. citizens, they are no longer eligible for services. Now, over the last few months, there's been a lot of conversation, there have been hearings.
A lot of worry.
A lot of worry. In the government, among our elected officials, in the community, the thing that I was sharing with you, and as I'm beginning to talk about it, it gives me a chill. I'm hearing more and more from people who work directly with immigrants, great concern for the welfare of people. There's tremendous depression among the elderly. There are already reports of suicide because people feel such despair that they are no longer going to be eligible for SSI. Our hope is that people who are elderly and disabled and who are receiving food stamps or Social Security will be able to contact the agencies, because all of the agencies are preparing to deal with whatever the outcome is going to be of welfare reform. There is some thought, originally we were thinking of that in California, there's going to be about 300,000 people who are going to be adversely impacted by this. About 400,000 people are going to be cut off of food stamps. If there are some changes and people who are disabled are allowed to continue receiving benefits, then the number will be reduced. But still, people who are elderly but not disabled will be cut off. Now, there is talk of changing some procedures, but that hasn't happened. And so we're looking for ways to assist people to qualify for the exemptions in the law and to help people qualify if they are elderly and they are disabled and can qualify for the disability part of the welfare reform exception. If they have worked in this country for 40 quarters and we can demonstrate that, then they can qualify. And there's some other exemptions in the law that we're very interested in making sure that people don't despair, that they move to action, and that they contact the community-based organizations that are involved in citizenship work, because there's a great deal of concern that we reach folks who in many ways are isolated because they are elderly and disabled, may not have access to transportation to get to agencies. We're looking for ways of addressing those issues.
So it sounds to me like if somebody wishes to be involved in helping to solve some of these problems, they should call you. Agencies, companies,
Yes.
community-based organizations, whatever. And people who feel the need to have more information, to know what they can do to help their personal circumstances, should call you again.
Yes.
Because you can refer them to some of the agencies that can be helpful.
Exactly.
Right.
We're beginning to hear from the children, the adult children of many of these folks.
Yes.
And many of the people may qualify. They have been in this country for many years. They are here as legal residents. They may be able to qualify for exemptions, for example, because they've been working all their adult life. And they've been paying into Social Security, they've been paying their taxes, and they should be eligible for an exemption, but they don't. When people first hear of this, when they first get a letter from the government telling them that they're going to be cut off, you know, the tendency is to despair.
I think the word panic would apply if it came to me. I mean, what do you do? Where do you turn? Is there any place? And what you're telling us now, there are organizations getting together and finding the answers.
Exactly.
Yes.
Are you helping people to develop their work skills? Not all of them are going to necessarily be elderly that are on welfare, that are about to be...
Well, that's another aspect of welfare reform. The community colleges are a significant part of that process, and maybe Hope would probably be able to give you much more information about what are the community colleges doing as far as preparing people to get into the workforce and some of the related problems around that.
You were mentioning the problems, especially of young mothers who have infants.
Right. Right now, what the county is noticing that they're requesting that the mothers return to work after the baby's 3 months old. And so where the problem is trying to get child care for infants. Not, we're not talking about...
Baby wouldn't even be weaned at the age of 3 months.
Right. So we're hoping that if they consider it possibly a year or 2 years, the mother should remain with the child and then return to the workforce. We're hoping for that.
But you're still trying to develop work skills, something that people can learn.
Oh yes, the community colleges, they have non-credit courses where they're able to learn a trade and go into, and quickly. They want courses that are, you know, a year and a half or something, so that they can get into professions.
A job of some kind.
Right.
Computer training?
Right.
Let's see, okay. I've had several guests that have talked about multi-level marketing as something a person can run right from their home. And there are ways to do that, and that way the mother would still be home with the child. There are a lot of severe problems that we are addressing here. Is there something that we haven't touched on that we should have? With welfare reform, the ESL, the naturalization process, who is eligible, who isn't, what's going on. Trade with foreign countries is something that I'm personally hoping to get more involved with in helping people to make contacts overseas.
Well, you know, that's one of the treasures of an immigrant community, that many folks still have connections back home. And that's certainly something that people have taken advantage of. And I hope more people do. You know, that people who are immigrants here still have connections back home in their native countries.
Yes, and there are people there who want to do business here. And I think you're familiar with the fact that I did a show with Charlene Maldonado where Charlene described if you have people outside of this country who need financing in order to buy from you here, she has the contacts, we're developing the contacts to get them the credit through the Ex-Im Bank so that they can buy from you here so you could be in business. And you know, the trade would develop benefits on both sides of the border. They tell me it's time to pause for another public service announcement, so let's do that now. We'll be right back. Our guests are Hope Olmos and Elena Macias, and you have covered so much information in these two shows. I wonder if we could just spend the last few minutes sort of recapping and re-emphasizing the points we made. Elena, would you start us off?
Thank you. Yes. A couple of points I'd like to make, actually three. The first one is that we have a video series, and we're very interested in sharing that video series with other people, and would welcome a telephone call from them to Hope so that we can talk to them about how they can get this video series in their libraries, in their schools, to make it available to more people. Secondly, we are very concerned as a consortium with welfare reform and its impact, its adverse impact on legal permanent residents, and are looking for partners in the Los Angeles County and Orange County in particular. We're very interested in working with people who want to reach out to those people who are adversely impacted by welfare reform in their communities,
churches,
in their
schools,
homes.
CBLs.
Exactly. And I think the third point that I'd like to make is that I am a volunteer. And anyone in your audience who is interested in getting involved can find a lot of satisfaction in working with organizations who are involved in working for citizenship services. You can't get any more satisfaction out of helping someone become an American citizen. This is one of the greatest countries in the world. I love it.
It's the greatest. Let's clarify that.
Well, an awful lot of people think it's the greatest country in the world. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. And when you meet with people and you talk to them, you can't help but get goosebumps. Every one of those encounters is a goosebump experience for me. It helps me realize on an everyday basis just how wonderful life can be if you are in a free country.
And I would like to invite everyone that needs any help with their citizenship process. We have free classes in the community.
Did you use that magic word, free?
Yes, free.
Okay.
And we also have monthly workshops on campus where they're able to get all of the process started. And we have the need for volunteers also to come and help us with the community activities, fairs, and just to disseminate all the information that we have concerning immigration forms, any of the dates that things are needed. If they have any problems along the process, we're willing to help them.
Thank you very much for being our guests.
No, thank you.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate your giving us all this information. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I hope our viewers feel the same way. And we want to thank you for joining us on these sessions of Adventures in Life. Please join us soon again.